Yeah, well, I'll just keep on rolling along. So thank you. Before we get started into the session, or to start the session, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we gather, even as we do so electronically, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. And CORF acknowledges the very important roles of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples within the outdoor recreation community and right across Queensland and Australia. And CORF also acknowledges the support that's provided to CORF and the outdoor sector by the Queensland Government. My name's Dom Courtney. I'm the Executive Officer of CORF, Queensland Outdoor Recreation Federation. Mark Squires is also joining us, and Hubertine Witches, I'm not sure if she's with us today, and Angela Wright, I think she might be joining us as well. So a few of the staff here. Also welcome members of our board and any life members of our organisation, and all members of CORF and everyone else who's joining us, and particularly any reps from interstate organisations. Welcome to another session here. I've got to just up front say, I think I said about 4 months ago, maybe longer, this thing's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'd just like to repeat that one because the marathon's continuing, as probably everyone knows. I'm going to say personally, I'm pretty weary, and I'm going to take a little bit of time off in the next couple of weeks. But I think that's probably a common thing. I heard someone on a podcast talking about pandemic fatigue, and I think there's probably a little bit of that out there at the moment. So I certainly personally am fairly fatigued after a whole lot of probably sprinting more than marathon pace for me in the last little while. But I think we've achieved a lot as a collective, but there's certainly still a lot more to go. So I just wanted to put that out there that, you know, the whole marathon continues, I guess, which is, I guess, the way maybe we need to start thinking about some of these things. Again, the topics for discussion, a bit of an agenda there. There's a lot on there, but it's also an opportunity for anyone. If you have any other topics, please pop it in the comments, or in the even just put your hand up, and happy to throw to anyone if anyone wants to have a chat about these topics, but also any other topics. I always put other matters on the agenda for these sessions. And happy to have anyone have a chat about different things. Yeah, so as we go along, you know, I just saw Peter's comment, I deserve a break. Thanks, Peter. I'm going to take one, don't worry. I'm going to sneak off and do some camping without my work phone, which will be wonderful for about a week. So, yeah, but yeah, thank you for that. And it's great to have everyone here again for another session. Getting into it, I've brought this one up a few times. This is, and it's not because I'm on the board of AQIA, this is really good training. It's free training, and it's tailored for the Queensland outdoor rec, fitness and sports sector, the return to play guide that the government released. It's actually really valuable. It takes about half an hour to do, online, freely available for anyone in our sector. So can't promote it too much. They also have been running some webinars. There was one on Wednesday evening. I didn't end up participating in it, but I've heard some good feedback on that one as well. So just check out, I've got the links there for the training, and I think Mark will probably post those into the chat. He's already done that because he's awesome. For the COVID safety training, it's well worth having a look at for anyone across our sector. Thanks, Mike. And there's also training on the TAFE website still, so don't forget that's available as well. So yeah, feel free to check that out. There's quite a different range of, it's more generic education and training. They're on the TAFE website, but there's certainly value in it as well. I haven't got a TAFE certificate of completion to show you, but it is some good training on there. So I just wanted to flag that as well. I just wanted to again remind you about the small business adaptation grants that the Queensland Government has available, particularly for regional Queensland. For round two, it's closed to southeast Queensland, but it's still open for regional Queensland. There's criteria and that sort of stuff on their website, but you know, I've said it before, it's an opportunity to get some funding that can help with recovery and adaptation to what's happened in our operating environment so swiftly. And it's just great to see the government actually making some money available for business in that way. So the one thing is, as I say, it's closed for Southeast Queensland. And the Southeast Queensland's defined fairly broadly in their terms. I think it's Toowoomba's included in Southeast Queensland, Gold and Sunshine Coast, basically, you know, the traditional bit, but it's actually fairly broad. So just need to check it out as far as eligibility. But for those who are genuinely in regional Queensland, yeah, it's worth having a look at that one and maybe putting in an application for what they are willing to pay for.
So Dom, it's Noel here from Mackay. How are you today?
Hey Noel, good, thanks.
So with regarding that funding, any idea when it might end? I've had my application in, you know, from the second day it opened and we've heard nothing, you know, so.
Okay, I didn't realise that, Noel. It might be worth zipping them through an email and asking them, but I'm not sure. I have the impression that that they're keeping it open in the regional Queensland space until it's exhausted. And I had a look at their website this morning, and I think it says they've allocated about 55% of the funding. So there should still be funding there. So, and they said it was updated as of 5 o'clock yesterday or something. So
yeah.
I
put mine in on the second day it opened, and I haven't heard anything, you know. So
yeah, that sounds a bit odd, Noel. I'd probably send a follow up, but
I might do that.
I did the same, Noel.
Have you heard anything?
Okay.
Nothing at this stage.
Yeah, very well then.
So you're not on your Pat Malone, Noel, but it's probably worth a follow up. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
No worries. Again, I've mentioned this before as well, the Queensland Government restart funding. This is really aimed at clubs, not-for-profit organisations in the outdoors sector, fitness sector, outdoor sector and sport. So this is coming from the Sport and Rec from Queensland Government. The Active Restart Infrastructure Recovery Fund, that's all about, as it says, well, it's got good grants. I'm not sure what happened there, but grants for minor upgrades, repair and maintenance, or to purchase equipment and tools that support club in return to play. So basically, they've repurposed the grant system that was in existence for clubs and non-profit organisations, and they're using it as a way of helping people return to play in a COVID environment. So that's what that's about. They're certainly worth a look. And, you know, if you're eligible for those ones, there's no reason not to apply for those sort of systems. The sports clubs are really, really good at applying for those and snapping up the money. And I'd really recommend we get in for our chop as far as they've simplified the process a lot as far as getting into those systems now. It used to be quite difficult, but I'd just say, just have a look at it. It's surprising the changes that have come into that system to make things easier for people to apply and be successful. Ultimately, that's what we want. It's not just about putting the application in, it's actually getting that cash to help you do the good things that you guys do. I did want to just add an update on JobKeeper. So Laurie from Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, she just flagged this actually during her session that she just ran, and I'm shamelessly reproducing her work. She sent me the slide. It's a really good update as far as if anyone has been making use of the JobKeeper system. So I think the Treasurer announced these changes. It was either early this week or late last week. The days have blended together a bit, as I'm sure it has for quite a few of us. But the changes they're making there are actually really important too if you are using the JobKeeper scheme. The extension's right through now, they've said, until March next year. It was going to finish at the end of September. So this is important as far as certainty. but they've tweaked the system a little bit, or significantly, I suppose. And one of the key parts is about the reassessing eligibility by reference to quarterly turnovers on an ongoing basis. So just because you're eligible at the start of it doesn't mean your business stays eligible, but also if you weren't eligible at the start of it, you might be eligible in a different quarter. So it's worth having a look at that as well. And it says on there, and I haven't gone back to have a look at this, but Laurie said that the payment's actually open to new participants if the businesses meet the eligibility requirements under a different quarter. So that's probably an important consideration for anyone who had a look at it back in March, April when it all started and didn't meet the eligibility criteria. Just have a look, and it's probably worth talking to your accountant about that sort of thing from a business point of view. But yeah, it's certainly worth knowing. The bit about the tapered payments is the other one, that they've changed the system, which you probably saw on the news, but there's a different system for full-time employees and part-time employees, so, or different payment system. So that's an important part of it. And I just wanted to flag that. If anyone has any comments on it or wants to, you know, has had a good hard look at it and wants to talk about that, happy to open that up to any of you.
Hi Dom, it's Tanya from Camp QB. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Tanya, go ahead.
I haven't had a hard look at it at all, but I've had a bit of a look. And the question that I had, and I don't know if this applies to others in the industry, but it might, is we have periods of time where the employees work actually quite a tremendous amount of hours that were well over 20. And then we have periods of time where they drop right back. And I've just been stuck in terms of thinking about what to do with that. We've been talking as a staff group about whether they go at the higher rate, and then when times are busier, then that also, you know, takes into account that. So if they've got a 40-hour work week, in 1 week they've got a 5-hour work week. So I think there's such variability in their work, it's been hard to make that call.
Yeah, I think this did come up right at the start, Tanya, and the funny thing is it didn't come into play because it was whether if you worked an hour a week or 60 hours a week, you're on the same rate. But there was talk about that, and I believe there was talk about, even from some accounting firms who were trying to get their heads around it, they were talking about rolling averages for staff and that sort of thing. And I don't know what the detail is about that, but I'm happy if someone else has had a look into it or has an opinion on it or heard the story. But yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is on that. It's certainly, I don't understand how you could possibly chop and change. I've just seen a comment there. Laurie said the hours are based on historical. And is that, and Graham said, is that the average historical? So Laurie's just put 2019 hours. Do you want to talk about that at all, Laurie?
Yep, got to find the mute button. Sorry.
I warned you about that mute button.
Yeah, I believe I'm just trying to get some clarification from an accountant, but it sounds like what they're saying is it's based on historical hours worked in 2019. So your comparative figures for the drop in revenue and the hours that were worked for that staff member at that time. But yeah, like I say, I'm just getting some clarification on that. So I'll shoot it through to you, Dom, when I get it.
That'd be awesome. Thanks, Laurie. Another great example of collaboration. As I said, Laurie literally sent me this slide this morning during her presentation, which is greatly appreciated. Not that we weren't concentrating on the guest presenters who were awesome as well during her presentation. But thank you, Laurie.
No worries.
Moving right along, Blue Card services, update to the Blue Card laws. Again, I've mentioned this a couple of weeks in a row, but it's about the no card, no start is the key part of that. It basically means your employees, until they've got a blue card that's linked to your organisation, they can't start in any working with children role. So this is a really important one. And it already applied to volunteers. It says they're trainee students and people operating the business already subject to it, but it's coming into employees in the same rules. So paid workers must have the blue card, not just a pending application. So it's something that starts on the 31st of August, which is not very far away. So it's an important piece of it. I haven't gone back and checked their website to see what the system, if it's been updated and fully implemented recently, but I know not so long ago, their system was still saying almost coming soon. So hopefully they're getting that sorted, because it's coming very soon and we'll be here before we know it. So just wanted to flag that as well. The key, one tricky bit on that is the card has to be linked to your organisation as well. So it's not good enough just to have an employee say, yeah, I've got a blue card. It actually has to be linked into your system. So just a track for young players, I think, and it's probably an important thing to know about in there. I also wanted to flag the insurance inquiry that was launched this week. So the Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman, is Kate Carnell. She's running this inquiry into the insurance industry about practices of insurance specifically for small business. And they want anyone who's had issues with insurance to complete their survey or email them a submission. I think this is a role where we can get involved as a peak body, but it's also going to need contributions from as many of you as possible to flag what these issues are and make it real for the commissioner or for the ombudsman to say, these are the issues that we've been copying, and tell your stories. So tell them what's going on in the real world. And that's probably a bit of it that I was going to step into I was going to say the insurance companies might end up trotting people in there in their shiny suits and tell the story about how they do care about the dramas that are facing their customers, etc. But at the end of the day, the ombudsman needs to hear from the real people that the insurers make their money out of, and they do provide services to us. But I think it's important that any small business is actually feeding information into that. And I think that we're, as a sector, we're facing some significant issues regarding insurance on a standalone basis, just about getting cover. And it actually specifically says about affordability and availability of insurance. And that's a key part of this inquiry. So I just recommend you have a look at it and do their survey and or send them an email with your story. So yeah, Graham, you're going to have to send us all a minty, mate. I can see those. I look forward to the minties in the mail, Graham. We'll see it soon. Moving right along, I think I saw Pete from Inside the Outhouse. I'm not sure if David, Sheree or Alan are with us, but if one of you would like to have a little chat about what's coming up on Inside the Outhouse.
Morning, everyone. My name's Pete, and I manage a small chat called Inside the Outhouse. This week coming up, the 3rd of August, we have a great chat coming up for anyone who's packed a pack for pay, reimbursed while on a rafting trip, or climbed for coin. This outhouse is for you. Did you like what I did there? I thought that was quite good. Anyway, we're talking about freelancing in the outdoors, and we hopefully are going to have a big range of people in the room, both people who have freelanced and people who have also employed freelancers. So if you're not doing anything at 4:17 Queensland time on Mondays, then come join us inside the outhouse. Thanks very much. I'll just post our new link, hopefully in the chat. My technical advisor, David Maskell, is not with me today, so I'm struggling a bit with that side of things. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pete. I'm sure there's some people out there who've mountain climbed from Moola as well, mate. So, yeah, that's a great thing. And thank you for the work you do, really keeping the outhouse up and running and so smoothly. Thanks, mate. Very quickly, Dot Foley spoke to us a few weeks ago about the survey that the University of Canberra is running about the future of the Australian outdoor industry, the entire industry. This survey, I believe, is closing very soon. So if you haven't done it yet, it's open for anyone who's been involved in the Australian outdoor industry. So guessing that includes everyone on this call. So have a look at that survey. It's about helping with that process, but also they've been very open about sharing the results with all of us as to improve the understanding of the outdoor industry. So yeah, highly recommend you jump into that. It is closing soon, I understand. So, and I should also say on opportunities, Laurie also hosts a happy hour session on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So it's another opportunity there to connect up and to link in. So I don't know, Laurie, if you wanted to give that session a plug at all.
Yeah, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just going to say that straight out. It's just a great opportunity to connect more on a Friday afternoon social level. And look, people come and go. It's 4 o'clock, and it's a chance to just blow the wind with whatever's going on private and work basis. But we come up with some of the craziest ideas, and sometimes they're some of the best. So if you want to join in 4 o'clock Friday, all are welcome. So it's on the Facebook page if you want to check it out.
Thanks, Laurie. Speaking of important things, the Outdoors Queensland Awards, I've knocked on your doors a few times for this one. I've whacked my bright yellow highlighter on the awards. Just nominations are open. This isn't about just things that have happened in the last 12 months. Some of these awards can be about what's happened over the last few years as far as organisations, individuals, and things that have happened. So just wanted to, just a reminder on that one. There'll also be a reminder in our e-news that's going out today or tomorrow. But yeah, just as a reminder on that, please put your nominations in. We're going to be doing the awards presentation differently this year. Normally we have a sit-down dinner. That's either very difficult or not possible in our current environment. So we're actually going to do a virtual awards presentation so people can tune into the awards from their own device, whether from home or their backyard or from a park, whatever suits. It'll be on Friday, the 30th of October, but the awards nominations are closing in the next few weeks. So I do want to encourage everyone to jump in and get your nominations in. You can nominate someone you know has done awesome things, including yourself. And yeah, it's an opportunity to participate in that. And it's all about recognising the excellence and the efforts that are going on right across the Queensland outdoor sector. So yeah, there's 8 categories there, and nominations will close before you know it. Over to one of our favourite ongoing topics, the industry COVID safe plans. Just a quick reminder that statement of compliance, and I don't know if I've got the latest version there, but the statement of compliance it's a mandatory step if you do opt into the industry plans. And realistically now, with the changes the government made at the start of July, it's almost mandatory to opt in. So the opt-in system, probably that it shows that the government believes in the value of these industry plans, in what's in them. So I think it's basically if you have less than 50 participants, you can still get away without opting in, but you've still got to have all the workplace health and safety updates to manage COVID. So I think the real message is opt into the plan and display these statement of compliance. Mark's just put a link into the chat feature about the statement of compliance. And there's also that email address on the screen there for the SR, which is Sport and Rec COVID-19 email address. If you've got any technical queries or you want an official response, you can email that one. Happy for you to copy me into those emails if you do. Happy to have, you know, if you want to contact me, if I can help, that's cool. But some things it is worth sending through to get the official response from the government, particularly on probably unintended consequences or things like that in the plan. So just want to share that email address again. So these plans were updated last week and approved by the Chief Health Officer, the updated version. So they were updated a couple of weeks before that. But yeah, the updated versions are now available on the government website. They were published, I think it was late on Friday and maybe on Saturday. The Outdoor Ed Providers one was updated on the government website. So I'll just, in the next couple of slides, go through a few of the changes that came in to those. They're not major changes, but there is some important parts of it. So just as a reminder too, there is also, you've got to refresh, you might have to refresh the cache on your browser. So I've found a trick that is Control F5 will do that for a single page in some browsers, but it's worth making sure you're working on the latest version of the plans. Before we go on, Pete's also posted the agenda for Inside the Outhouse in the chat. So thanks, Pete. And Gil's made a point of saying that Scouts Queensland is sending statement of compliance to all Scouts groups next week that have submitted and had their plans approved. So that's great. Yeah, it's good to see that people we're going to see those statement of compliances up from businesses, which shows that we're opting in, we're using the industry plan, and it'll give confidence to all of our participants and also their families and also the public. So it's a good piece of work as far as having that on display. And Mark's just shared a link to that government page with the approved plans. So the outdoor rec activity providers, and if anyone has any questions, please jump in. This is, again, not about me droning on. The key changes in the update is the information being provided about the event framework, which is a piece of work that QTIC, Queensland Tourism Industry Council, they did with Griffith University and I think Tourism Events Queensland. They put that together. So there's information about that event framework in our plan now, in the Outdoor Rec Activity Provider plan. And there's also an update to the section on, there's a section in our plan that was called, or is called Personal Health. And in there, we've put more information on the field of play concept. So this is terminology that's really, it's probably actually more appropriate in the sport world, where they talk about the field of play as being, and it says this in our plan because we have to use consistent language. It says it's the pitch, court, field, pool, or other facility that the sport, recreation, or fitness activity is generally conducted on. And it then extends to the facilities like the change rooms and marshalling areas required for training and competing. So what it says is physical distancing doesn't apply on the field of play while the activity is being carried out. It should be it says should be observed to the extent possible in all other areas of the field of play. So it means you don't have to worry about the density requirements, and you can have physical contact in that field of play. But it does then say it only is permitted if there's no mixing of teams and there's no other persons like spectators allowed. So that's just for the extension to use the other facilities like change rooms. So the big part for us, I think, is that field of play, it probably needs some definition in your system, in your workplace health and safety system or your plan about, where the field of play starts and stops, because in that part, you don't have to worry about the physical contact side of things. And this applies to adults as well as kids. So it's an important development that the government's realised. A lot of it is about, it's actually written, as I said, in the sporting context. So this is how the sports can run full contact activities like rugby league or AFL on a paddock. They can go into the change room even though they don't necessarily meet the 4 square metres. Most of them wouldn't. Some clubs might, but they can go into the change rooms and the coaches can go in with the players, that sort of thing. And as soon as they get changed and they walk out of those change rooms, they've got to go back to the physical distancing. So we need to adapt that for our operating environment of what the field of play really means for in our operating environment. I've had some people ask me, if I'm doing a 3-day hike, is the field of play from the moment we leave the trailhead until we get back to that trailhead 3 days later? And there's some argument that it is, but again, it's about what we can do, what's practical. There probably isn't any need for physical contact between participants if you're doing a 3-day hike, but it's about understanding what it is and how this applies to our operating environment. Does anyone have any questions on, that's the two main changes. If anyone has any questions, please sing out. Nope.
Hey, Dom, for us camp facilitators, could that be from when the bus pulls up and drops them off at the gate to the time the bus picks them up and takes them home?
I think in the outdoor, I think it's really about while the outdoor activity's underway, Noel. So I think,
Very well.
yeah, it's more the activities themselves.
Dom, could I just ask you a question as well? Derek here from Brisbane Grammar, around equipment in the field of play. There's some providers that I've contact with saying that things like harnesses, helmets are used in the field of play and therefore don't need the sanitising.
I wouldn't go that far, Derek, but I understand the argument there. But I think it's more about the field of play stuff's more about the specific stuff's about physical distancing, which is in the plan. It doesn't say hygiene requirements in that field of play.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
So I just need one more balance.
All right. Any other questions on that one? Because it is an important thing to get your head around. So I just wanted to flag it and spend a little bit of time on that one.
The one that we weren't sure of, Dom, sorry, Tanya from Camp QB. So the non-field of play for us is bathrooms, you know, dining, accommodation. But we were talking about briefing and debriefing, you know, and so that was the one that we weren't sure about. So, you know, sometimes you want to bring the group together to brief them at the beginning and bring them together to finish it at the end. Is that field of play or not field of play?
It's a great question, Tanya. So in the plan, it specifically says marshalling areas which are required for training and competing. And I think a briefing area is like a marshalling area. So this is my take on it. That wording again was the sport wording. So I tend to think that the briefing area probably is okay. And the question would then be, is it practical to carry out that briefing with physical distancing? If it's not, you're probably not doing anything wrong, because the field of play, if you define that area as within your field of play, then that's fine. But it's about what we need to do to, you know, keep everyone safe. And the other one that I'm very conscious of is keep everyone comfortable. So particularly, it's probably not as much for kids where if they're in the school setting, they're not used to the physical distancing in that setting anyway. But particularly for adult clients, I'm getting feedback that adult clients actually are worried about that, even that rule, even though it's legally, the field of play is fine, but we need to think about what people are actually comfortable with as well. So I think you're probably right as far as a briefing area being like that marshalling area concept. It's actually specifically stated in the plan, but it's again what people are comfortable with.
Thank you. Yeah, I interpret it as that, but the team were a little bit nervous. We're essentially saying we're going to try and have the distance and keep them outside, but if the weather's bad, then they can still come inside.
Yeah, and that's again, you're taking a practical approach to it, which I think is really what you're looking at and what's appropriate as we go through. I'll just come to I'll move on to the outdoor ed plan and the changes in that one. So the outdoor education providers industry plan, I've just had a look in the comments, and Danny's put one there about campsites applying the 2 square metre rule for adult campers if they're businesses or venues with a floor area under 200 square metres. Yeah, so this is a difficult area. Under our plan, it specifically says the 4 square metre. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think it has the bit about if you've got a much smaller room, you don't have to. You can go with the 2 square metre rule. So I don't believe that that's actually correct interpretation of it. Danny, do you want to talk to that, mate?
No, I think you understood my question. Okay, Dom. When I did ask that question of some campsites, they simply said, we're interpreting the rule that says that if a business or venue is under 200 square metres, we're applying that to the room that that group is occupying. So if their accommodation room is under 200 square metres, then we're going to apply the 2 square metre rule for adults.
I feel that that's looking for a loophole where we should be looking for compliance, Danny. Strangely enough, I actually mentioned this in our newsletter. I do a little video that goes out, and I actually mentioned this today, that one of the things that's really made me really confident with the industry plans is the fact that most people that I've spoken to, significant numbers, are looking to comply with them and not looking for loopholes. You know, that's actually really makes me more confident in our industry. And yeah, I think that trying to go to that point might be looking for a loophole rather than looking to meet the, I guess, the spirit of the document or the spirit of what the Chief Health Officer's actually asking us to do, or not asking, telling us to do.
Yeah, we'll obviously stay with what we had in place, which was the 4 square metre for adults that aren't in a household or a family group. And I'll pass that message on to at least one that I have contact with, but I don't know if you need to get that info a little wider. The last thing we want to do is to compromise the industry plan.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Yeah, happy to sort of keep that moving along. The messaging is an important part of this, and it's part of what we're trying to do in relation to it. And I guess the other one is on that, if there's any other people that you think would benefit from joining these sessions, feel free to let them know about it, because it's a chance for them to ask the questions and to hear, you know, not that I'm the font of all knowledge, but you guys are. So, you know, just feel free to pass on about these sessions, and even the recordings of the sessions as well, that they might want to have a look at them. I just wanted to highlight those couple of changes there. There's a clarification in the new updated plan about it's okay to have multiple activity group leaders within a client group. So you don't have to have one activity leader stick with the same activity group right throughout a program. So that's been clarified in the plan. And that was a clarification that actually got sent through to Sport and Rec. And I've certainly had a chat about it, and we realised, no, we actually do need to make that clearer in the plan. So that's part of the value, again, of zipping through an email to the Sport and Rec COVID-19 email address and getting it dealt with officially. So that's in the new plan. And the other one's about the food service, which has been, we've spoken about here before about, so self-service buffets are still completely off the table, so to speak, but also that we've put a clarification in the updated version of the plan that specifically, it talks about the protocols in the retail food services industry plan that get adopted in relation to the dining space. And in the new plan that's updated, it actually says the protocols regarding food preparation, cleaning, hygiene and sanitation in the retail food services plan must be adhered to. So just to clarify, it doesn't actually say that the service requirements have to be adhered to from there, because that was really confusing in that retail food one. But the Chief Health Officer has has updated her direction. I think that was on Friday as well, last week, saying that all patrons must be seated when eating or drinking in a venue. So it's an important thing to understand. But what we've gone back with is the question on, is it okay for patrons to go up and collect their meals and then go and sit down? And the answer to that has come back yes. So that's okay to get them to come up table by table, as long as they're not mingling when queuing and that sort of thing. So it's still wet and getting the physical distancing as much as possible. But while eating or drinking, patrons have to be seated. That's something the Chief Health Officer has released and updated just in the last week. So I'm just looking at the questions. Pete said, does that mean we can't do takeaway lunch from the dining hall? You can do takeaway lunch, but I would say that the answer is people should be seated while they're eating it. So this is one, I literally got the rugby club that I used to play for, I saw a message from them today. They've got a game tomorrow and they're telling people, if you're going to come and watch the footy, bring your own chair, because if you want to buy a beverage or food from our canteen, you need to be seated to be in compliance with our plan. If you want to sit, watch the footy and drink your drink or eat your food, you have to be seated. So they're very clear about that as far as messaging. At the club when I used to play, there was usually a fenced off licensed area where people could stand and watch the footy and have a beer. They can't do that anymore. You have to be seated to be, if you're consuming anything that's bought in their venue. So I think we need to just be careful on that one, and that's something that the Chief Health Officer only brought in last week. That direction overrides anything that's in the approved plan, so we do need to make sure of those sort of things as well. So that's why I wanted to put that there as an important note to talk about. Do we have questions on that one?
Thanks for the clarification, Dom. It seems clear to me now.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, it's certainly, again, this has got to keep the eye on the ball all the time as far as these changes, and I guess that's why I just wanted to flag that one. It is important. It's not in the plan, but it's certainly something that applies in relation to that. I have no idea as far as you know, what do you do if people are on a hike and they want to eat some trail mix along the way, have an apple? I think there's probably no drama with that, but it's more about if you're at a venue where food's being served, then the patrons have to be seated when they consume it.
Dom, we're having some schools, Tanya from Camp Cuby, we're having some schools who are now preferencing coming out on day camp, and they're also getting the kids to bring out their own lunchbox as well, so that we're then not serving the food. So with that would still apply if they've got their own lunchbox, they've got their own food in a lunchbox, that they need to sit down and we allocate a dining time for them to all eat at the same time, seated.
I'm not sure, Tanya. It's probably a good precaution to have, but I think this is actually something I'll tell you right now. We're updating our workplace health and safety system as well, and that's one of the things we're looking at for events, if possible, to ask people to bring their own catering, because it's just one less complication that you have in the system. But I'm not sure what the rules are if people bring their own food, on how responsible you are for how they consume that food. So I guess it depends on the environment and everything else. I'm guessing it probably doesn't have it wouldn't be a big deal if literally they're standing up eating their sandwich if they brought it, because you haven't served it to them. I'm not sure it's your responsibility, but they are at your site. So it's a bit of a strange one, and I don't really have a definite answer to that one, Tanya, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. We've planned it so that they actually sit down, but you know, if they've got their lunchbox in their bag, you know what kids can be like. They might just get a bit hungry and want a snack. And so, yeah, I wasn't sure. When you mentioned the apple on the run, it made me think about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been known to knock my lunch off by the morning tea, so you get hungry by the end of the day if you follow that practice. So hopefully they won't do it all the time. Yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know the full answer to that one, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. I think having them seated is probably the best option, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world if someone does have their sandwich standing up. But yeah, maybe if they're having their spaghetti bolognese, it might be more difficult for them anyway. Moving right along, COVID safe events is still a big topic that is out there. There's an important extra piece of information that came up again. I think this was on Friday. Mark published a link to it on our website. So for COVID safe events, there's a system of, if it's up to 500 people, you just need to fill out a COVID checklist. If it's 500 to 10,000, you need to get approval from your local public health office, public health unit. And if it's above 10,000, you actually need an approved COVID plan for that event from the Chief Health Officer. So they're obviously aiming at the big end of events there. If you follow an industry plan, however, you don't have to do that. You don't have to get permission, but you do have to incorporate the public health principles and the event-specific public health strategies that my strategic red arrows are pointing out on the screen there. But the extra wrinkle that came in last week is you also need to notify your public health unit if your event's over 500 people. You've got to notify your public health unit at least 10 days before the event. So they want to know about the larger events, which I guess gives them a chance to check on compliance. Even if your event's been run under an industry plan, you don't have to submit anything to them to get approval, but you have to notify, if you're following an industry plan, you need to notify the public health unit that you're running that event if it's over 500 people on the site at any one time. So it's a fairly complex area, but it is important to sort of understand that part of it. Is there any questions about the events piece? Nope. All right. This is just a reminder, and I'm thinking perhaps as we hopefully move into the recovery phase a little bit further, if any organisations wanted to make use of Seek, is set up an outdoor jobs portal on their website. So if anyone's advertising jobs for outdoor, in the outdoor sector, you can get it listed in the Seek outdoor jobs portal, and there's no extra fee for it. It's just a way of getting it linked in. So yeah, there's a link there to that, but I just wanted to just flag it again, because I think we talked about this, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago, but the feedback then was, not many people were actually looking at advertising jobs at the time because that was the situation we're in. Maybe now people are starting to ramp up a little bit more. So I just wanted to flag that one, that there's an opportunity there too. So yeah, so just let us know if you do want us to pass on details, we can do that.
Can you check that link in the chat for us, please, Tom?
Yeah, Danny. Mark, have you got that one, mate? I can pop it in there.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it now, Dom. Actually, I'll get it up there as soon as I find it.
Okay, thanks, mate. All right. So a bit of a recap of the topics for discussion. We're actually charging along today, so I'm happy if anyone has any other things you want to bring up. Yeah, happy to open the floor up to everyone.
Has everyone seen the new restrictions come out for the southeast corner? It's for aged care facilities at the moment, but just seeing that kind of, I guess for me, made me a little bit nervous in terms of our facilities and running camps.
Yeah, Tanya, you're right. It is about, it's access to aged care facilities is what they've put out. And I think there's about 100 aged care facilities that are included in that list. I heard on the radio, so it is a bit scary that, and this is the reality of what we're getting to, I suppose, and trying to avoid as far as lockdown in our area. In the Outdoors New South Wales session today, there's a heat map that the New South Wales government's put out, which actually shows you, breaking down by postcode, the number of cases in each postcode in New South Wales. And it's pretty scary stuff. So I guess, Victoria, again, they've gone through so much. I saw Aaron's on the call. Hope you're keeping well, mate. But, the situation down there is camps can still operate in regional Victoria, but their declared area of the hotspots has expanded again. So, and there's going to be mandatory mask wearing across all of Victoria. I think that's as of Monday. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah.
You ready, mate?
Yeah, there we go. It's got carabiners on it.
Oh, that'll help you climb through the problems, mate.
Oh, mate, I'm struggling. I want to do my MPG this year as well. I'm not going to be able to get out and climb.
No, I mean, it's certainly, I mean, everyone's struggling in different ways, but what's happening in Victoria is particularly scary. But also, I think what's happening in New South Wales, and I guess that's part of the vigilance that we need to have and maybe Queensland has slipped back a little bit where we've got a little bit complacent, unfortunately. So
I think one of the things to consider is that you need to be flexible with your planning as well. You know, like every time there's a new restriction or a new protocol that's brought into the government, it's back to the drawing board for all our planning and stuff. It's crazy the amount of work we're doing on it.
Yeah, and a big part of that is the uncertainty as far as, you know, in the past we've developed plans and, you know, we've had our same plan until we have a real good reason to review it. And now we're getting, oh yeah, well this the framework's just been updated yet again, week to week. So it is, these plans, I guess safety experts have said for a long time that your safety system is a living document that needs to be updated all the time. I think we're all living that much more right now as far as the truth in that mantra that the world of safety have been telling us for a long time. Any other questions or comments on any other topics as well? But yeah, this outbreak at the moment, certainly a major concern. We were going to do a bit of a tour of some facilities with some people from Sport and Rec next week, which we've cancelled or postponed to a future date. And that was about trying to expand or demonstrate to Sport and Rec some of the things that are going on in the outdoor sector. And we've made the decision to put that off. I think it's going to mean things tighten up, and certainly people's behaviours will probably tighten up a little bit in the next while. But it's also about how do we keep running our businesses, our organisations, and delivering the services that people expect. And that's an important part of what we're trying to do as far as helping people across the outdoors connect to each other, and also delivering the right information in a timely way that everyone needs. I guess that's the key parts of what we've been focused on for so long in trying to get this information out there for everyone and keep everything rolling along as much as we can that from our end anyway, and helping inform the planning world. I've got to say I've had some weird and wonderful questions in the last few weeks since our plans were approved. Just because it has the word outdoor in it, I've had phone calls from people who run outdoor markets. I've had all sorts of bizarre ones, people who run a street festival trying to work out how the events framework actually works. And I have to say, our stuff's really about outdoor activities, as in, you know, mountain biking and bushwalking and paddling. Not really all about running your street festival, but some of them are literally going, I just do not understand this system at all. And you sort of understand where they're coming from. So I've certainly had some interesting queries over the last little while, and yeah, it's been a learning process for me too.
So Dom, once again, Noel from Mackay. Just yesterday, you know, I had two teachers ring in yesterday. They're talking about what's happening down in Brisbane, and I think, well, you know, they're just getting nervous thinking about what could happen up here, you know, so let alone what today's little episode brought down in Brisbane, you know, from happened last night, you know. So we're here open for business. We've got all of our bookings. That'll take us right through to Christmas. But the thing is, it all depends how nervous these teachers are about it.
Yep, I completely agree, Noel. And I actually, just earlier, there was some talk about an operator from Victoria in the Outdoors New South Wales session was saying they're getting pressure from schools to cancel camps. And the pressure's not coming from necessarily from the teachers, but from the parents of the kids who are really, really nervous. And that's I guess it's a natural reaction, but maybe it's part of us telling the story about, well, we've got an industry plan that's approved by the Chief Health Officer. We're doing everything, we've got systems in place to make sure when the kids come here, they're not only safe in relation to COVID-19, but they're safe in relation to how we run our activities. And they're getting benefits from coming to the camp that the kids actually need right now. So I think that's the story that needs to be told a bit more in that space. And you're probably already doing that, but yeah, I think all we can say is, you know, back up that story as far as getting it out there.
Yeah, no, we are, but it's just the nervousness that of the teaching staff has got.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think
Anyway.
the big opportunity might be to possibly even get on the front foot as far as, you know, even emailing that certificate of compliance to the statement of compliance to the schools, that sort of thing, just to say, just to you know, let you know we are complying with an industry plan that's approved by Queensland's Chief Health Officer. You know, these are the steps that we're putting in place to protect every single person who comes into our centre, including our staff, you know, and yourselves. So I think that's probably...
They don't want to see the certificate. They want to see the whole plan, and the principal goes through that step by step before they even make the booking, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we just got to see what happens.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it doesn't turn into a New South Wales or Victoria up here.
Yep.
Danny back with Benoni. Just along those lines, I saw Kelly posted a question about asking if anyone wanted to share their experience about a camp if they've run one. So just making that offer if anyone wants to ask the question while we're online. We've had our first camp back this week. They depart today. And we have, just in line with what Noel was saying, we've had a school ring in and ask for a reference before they'll proceed with their camp in a couple of weeks about someone who's actually been back since we've reopened. So we are able to use the present client's experience. But anyone got a question of us of how it went or what we did or something, feel free to ask.
Did you get any feedback from your clients there? Like, have they been asking, you know, the hard questions of you, or has it all gone so well that there hasn't been necessary?
I'll let Benoni answer just because she deals with them every moment. So here she goes.
We have had right from when they're arriving, we've been receiving questionnaires from them. And I've been really glad to see that the questions are specifically, are you complying with this point in the education plan? Are you complying with this point in the education plan? And we've been able to tell them that we were part of the group that helped to get that up and running, and that gave them a lot of confidence as well. But the feedback we've had from this client we've got in there, quite a high profile client, they bring us 5 or 6 camps minimum a year, is that they are really blown away with the amount of work they can see has gone into making the place safe for them. We are still operating with a closed gate policy, so even their own bus can't get in without calling to get in. The only comment they said was they expected things to be different. They just didn't expect meal service would take quite as long, being that everyone has to be served. But they were still able to make it fit within their program. And yeah, they've absolutely loved it. And I'm more than happy to be a reference for other principals who are maybe a bit nervous about going ahead, just to explain what they've had to do differently and how it works here, because we have been really strict on them, and thankfully they have worked with us, not against us.
And just on that, a lot of the things that we've put in place are visual. Obviously, when you walk into a dining room, you can see what's changed and different. But similarly, all our 1.5 metre separation between groups are physical barriers on the whole site, so you see the whole lot. Yeah.
Well done, I guess, to both of you and to your whole staff. I mean, it's a team effort, but yeah, well done on obviously giving the clients that positive experience that they've had throughout that, and it's pretty awesome that they're happy to be a reference for other, particularly for other schools. That's a real feather in your cap. So
yeah, in the context of this group, thank you for that, Don. Wasn't looking for any accolades, more looking if anyone's struggling. I'm not saying we've got it right, but it works for so far. So if you've got a question, feel free to grab my contact details.
So Danny, what's the name of your camp?
Alexandra Park Conference Centre, owned by the Uniting Church at Alexandra Headland.
It's that lovely background picture you see there, Noel. It's a pretty viewpoint there from the camp at Alexandra Headlands.
Yeah, that's a real drone shot of the top of our main auditorium and a split view without showing our lake and ovals, which sit in between that split view, down to the beach, which is 200 metres away. Yeah.
Another piece of paradise, I think, there for you, Danny.
Holiday.
Yeah. But thank you for offering that. If anyone does want to get in touch with Danny or Benoni, I think it's well worthwhile just to even share experiences and understand how it's been working. So, yeah, thank you for that, mate.
Dom, it's Mark here.
Hello.
Yeah, we had an apology from Andrew Grant from QCCC, but he has also shared, in the light of the generosity of Danny there, his participant declaration template, which is basically he's sort of updated what he's been using in the past to be a bit more specific about you know, contact tracing and so on. And he's happy for us to share that to the group. So I'll put that in the email that I send out later on this afternoon to everybody who's been a part of today.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And I guess that is an important part of what's been going on. Benoni mentioned before about, you know, the contributing to the development of the plans, but also contributing or collaborating across the sector. That's been really great to see, and people sharing resources and those sort of things. Also, Emu Park, they've actually got their entire COVID health management plans actually on their website, and they're quite happy for anyone to have a look at that. You know, that's on their website for all their clients to see, and they said, oh, they don't mind if other people across the industry have a look at it. If there's any queries, give them a yell. So yeah, there's a few people who've been doing some great things and sharing what they're doing for everyone else to benefit from, but also to probably, I guess, in the sense of collaboration, to ask them questions if there's something unusual in there that you know, they're happy to talk about it. So yeah, that's great, Mark. Thank you for that. I just saw Tanya just says using QR codes linked to SurveyMonkey, which is working well. That's good to hear too. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things about the QR codes with check-ins into businesses, particularly cafes and those sort of things. They're using them very regularly as part of their attendance tracking now. People can just click on their phone and then click on the way out. So it seems to be a bit of it might be a time for the QR codes to shine, I think. They've been around for long enough. And Mark just shared that link to the Emu Gully Health Management Plan, and Tanya's shared hers as well. There you go. I told you there's collaboration all over the place. Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, it's good to see. And yeah, has anyone else got any other questions, comments? We've gone a little bit over the time, but yeah, just wanted to say thank you for everyone for your contributions. No? All right. Well, until next week, I hope you all have a great week. I hope it's a successful week, and obviously the greatest thing we can all hope for is that this outbreak in southeast Queensland gets under control quickly. Obviously the health people are doing all they can to manage it, but yeah, hopefully it doesn't go pear-shaped and get us in all sorts of strife. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for your contributions today.
Hello, Dom. Sorry, Tanya from KevKiwi, just quickly. The meeting invite says that it finishes on the 31st, which is today. So are the meetings still continuing every Friday, or are they finishing up this Friday?
No, we will keep them going. Yeah, so we're keeping them going. So we might have to, I'll check with Mark, he's the guru on this stuff, whether we can just extend that one or whether we send out a new invite. I think, Mark, we can just extend it.
No, yeah, thanks for that, Tanya. I hadn't realised we're coming up to the end of the current run. I will extend it out to the end of the year so that we'll just keep on running these things as long as they're needed.
Okay, thank you.
No
we will, I flagged it last week, I think, but on the 14th of August, we're going to be down for maintenance, which is really, that's the week I'm sneaking away to have a break, but also that Friday is a public holiday in Brisbane because of the Echo holiday. So we thought we might give the session a week off, unless everything goes absolutely pear-shaped, in which case Mark will probably take over and host one on the Thursday or maybe even Friday. I don't know how we'll work that one, but that's why Mark's here, he'll work that out. Yeah, maybe we'll decide that next week. Actually, we'll be a week closer, so we'll know what's going on. And at some point, we might drop these back to fortnightly, but I don't think that's the situation at the moment. I'm happy to keep doing them weekly while you guys are happy to keep turning up. So we had around 20 people here today, which is terrific. So yeah, we'll keep on going with weekly. We'll stretch out the invitation, as Mark said, and yeah, we'll keep it rolling. So thank you for bringing it up, Tanya. I would have, you know, sneaked off into the sunset without that one, and then I would have been talking to Mark next week.
Thanks for that. See ya. See you next week with the sunset maybe too. Bye.
Bye.
Yes. See you, Tanya. Thank you.
Thanks all.